Good morning, afternoon, evening to whoever has decided to tune in right on time here at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Stephanie Brown. Welcome from Intelligent Construction Opportunities. Intelligent Construction Opportunities does these live streams so construction technology providers can show off the value of their software and technologies for construction professionals. Today, I'm happy to welcome back Alec Thomson, CEO and co-founder of Riskcast. Welcome, Alec.
Stephanie, I listened to you intro that, and I really want Mike Rowe to write you a jingle. Oh. I loved your intro, and I'm like, I can hear Mike saying that. I am a big fan of his and of yours and what you're doing. So thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It takes a little while. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest, listen to me, audience, it can be cheesy, but you know, you want to kind of, you just want to try and, you know, cut to what matters to whoever's listening, you know?
Yep.
So
agreed.
Before we got on, you talked a little bit about your recent road trip. Do you want to share with the audience what that was about?
Yeah. So I relocated actually about 2 months ago from a kind of remote area of New York, which had been on purpose for a reason. And then I kind of had gotten back to travel and it was inconvenient. So I was looking for a place where I could hub both Riskcast operations in my personal life. And I relocated to Nashville about 8 weeks ago. And one of the purposes was to be able to drive to customers, to be able to reach out to a core group. And I guess 2 weeks ago was my first opportunity to take advantage of that. I drove over to Atlanta, had some great times, great meeting with some customers, existing customers, drove on to Myrtle Beach for a summit, an AGC summit of the Carolinas, which was phenomenal. It was, well, I'll pick back up on that, but it's all operations folks. It was all the people I kind of grew up working with. In fact, people I did work with at one of my old companies. And then I drove down to Charleston to catch a customer we'd never met, right? The virtual world nowadays, you don't always meet your customers. So we got a chance to meet one of our customers in Charleston who, again, we share a similar background of one of our old companies. They're doing work at the kind of the foot of a major icon in Charleston that, you know, one of my old bosses built. So it's kind of fun. I mean, it was really good and refreshing for me. And then I went on to Chicago for AGC Tech, and we just got back from AGC Tech conference with, which was great. It's a great conference every year, but it was really, Stephanie, what we were sharing, it was a really interesting perspective. The juxtaposition of I've been going to a lot of tech conferences and I hadn't been either in the customer's office as often or really with that group in Myrtle Beach where it was all folks building. There were a few tech providers there, but most of the expo room was like, you know, tool providers and concrete sensors. And, you know, it was the stuff involved in like the work, not our flashy software. And it was really great to have those couple of days there, hear the real issues. You know, now you're talking about, you know, different DOTs talking about what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, specs and lighting of work, but also just talk to the project managers and the vice president of operations and the teams that really we built the product for, right? It's so easy to forget. And I don't forget that. I mean, I don't want to say I forget it, but it's so easy to get caught in the tech cycle of conferences that are tech conferences. So
for sure it is. But what if I can just say, you know, you talked about the company. I think what's important to construction professionals who will be listening to this is why Reggie,
yep,
and what makes you guys so smart to even go out and do Riskcast. What's the why, Alec?
So smart, no, definitely experienced. I think experienced and smart might be different, but we had a lot of experience, Stephanie. Reggie went to work for Slattery in New York City right after graduation and worked there until we started the company. Slattery was purchased over time by Skanska, USA Civil. And Reggie was in the field and actually worked on air trains. If you've ever been to JFK and taken the air train, Reggie worked on that project as a cost engineer, really worked on the first kind of inception of what eventually became Riskcast. I don't think that was ever thought of then, but it was just a tool to help the project managers see the information they were trying to see, and eventually built the tool for the company we were working for. He'd gone back to school, got a computer science degree. So we're solving the problem, we're coding the problem from the seat of the user, which I think was a bit different for us than some other startups. And then my background was similar. I worked for a company called Tidewater Construction, phenomenal group of people. And there are entire groups of people around the Southeast at lots of companies in the heavy civil space that came out of that group of Tidewater. Tidewater was eventually purchased by Skanska as well. That's how Reggie and I met. And so we were working for the Skanska heavy civil umbrella when we met. But that's I was a field engineer. Reggie was a field engineer. I spent my next years around construction. I worked at Sunbelt Rentals. It was a great opportunity, great outfit. I worked for United Technologies on their field side. And then I went back to work for Skanska. I went back to work for the same group I had left, and then wound up in the New York office with Reggie, supporting field. Everything both of us always did was supporting field. So that was our shared passion. That continues to be our shared passion is how do we help the teams in the field get their work done?
So give us a high level, like why Riskcast? What's the why? What are customers asking for, or were asking for of both you and Reggie, or what did you identify back then that was the beginning of Riskcast? And I really want to then sort of move into the time cards issue, because everything seems to emanate from Riskcast from a time cards perspective. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right. That's the capture portal, right? And that's kind of like a secret weapon. It's almost like a Trojan horse. The why if anybody's lived in the field, worked in the field, I imagine they can relate to this. At some point, someone other than you in the field purchased software for your company, and it probably wasn't easy for you to use. It wasn't because you weren't a tech person. It was because it wasn't designed for you. It was designed for the report that they wanted in the office, which is great. They need a report. Reggie and I just thought, can't we flip that on its head? If we could capture the data that always goes into the report in a way that the users in the field were familiar with, then we could create the report later. So instead of starting with the report that all the execs wanted, could we just go to the field and capture that core data really easily? You have to capture it at quality. So it has to be easy because it has to be quality. But capture that data.
An example. When you talk data, as you described it.
Yes, the time card. The time card is the tool. What's the core data? The core data for us, who was on site? How many hours did they work? What did they work on? What quantities did they install? If you want to track production, what did they install based on what they worked on? And what equipment did they use doing it? That was our core data set. That core data set feeds production tracking report, a labor cost report, a job cost forecasting report. That core data feeds safety metrics. Those core data feeds, a manpower report and an equipment report. So those core data points, and you said time card, those core data points were all getting recorded in some form or fashion on a time card in one way or another. Paper, Excel, how did you do that, right? That they were all kind of core things. And so we just digitized it. We didn't make it, you said smart. All we did was go, wow, they're using a grid of piece of paper today. Let's make that on the iPad and let's capture all that information. And then we were really, really fortunate. Procore actually introduced us to our first customer, and our first customer said, it has to do more than just the basic grid. I need to put my notes in there. I need to put my photos in there. I need to put, tag hours of things. I need to start doing everything, because everybody knows on the side of their daily report or their side of their time card, they write things. Right. And those things are important to them for other things they have to do. And so our first customer, and they're a great customer. They're a partner. The folks there that got started with us are actually amazing friends at this point in our lives. Because you're talking about a 7-year journey now with them. They looked at it and said, it's got to do all these things. And then, oh, by the way, it has to do it the way everybody's familiar with. Don't make them change. Like, just give it to them in an easy way. And I think over time, we've been able to do that. And the time card is the real secret weapon for that.
Well, and the time card means to me that that's what they care about. They're getting paid. That's why they have a time card. That's tracking how are they getting paid? Why did they show up to do X, Y, Z today, tomorrow, whatever on that job?
Well, and let's face it, it's the one thing they were definitely going to do, right? They had to do it. The office is going to make them do it. And they wanted to do it because they were going to get paid. So it was the one thing that was going to get done no matter what.
And well, I have a friend that says, follow the money. I mean, I think that, you know, I mean, we all in some way, shape or form every day, whether we want to acknowledge or not, are following money. But at the end of the day, in construction particularly, I think the skilled trades, you know, can get a bad rap. And honestly, that's how they follow the money, through all the BS that they have to put up with otherwise. So I think that's a really good call out. And I just want to say for the audience today, what Alec and I are going to try and do for you is take, you know, 3 specific use cases of Riskcast and why. So, okay, that's why now we know kind of why it exists, although there are some different elements. I will say that you called some of them out that go, you know, a little deeper. The quantities, the production, obviously the manpower, beyond the time card, certifications, which, you know, then spills over into safety, and of course logs, which are spilling into reports, and time and materials. So let's sort of break that down. So let's start with, you know, we talked about one use case, a job hazard analysis that had to be turned in every day, and it was a challenge.
Yeah. So
a little bit.
Yeah, this was a fairly recent build for us, and it was something that we didn't set out to do. It was brought to us by a customer who was using an extensive amount of our system. So here's a customer using almost everything. They're using our time card. They're using our daily reports. They're using our T&M tickets. They're using our certificates in the personnel roster. And they said, hey, we have to turn in JHAs every day. And we're looking for a way to make that easier for our team. So first, I love the contractor's perspective. From the office, we're looking for a way to make that easier for our team. That's a great perspective. So can we make this easier? So, all right, we're going to make this easier for our team. How do we do that? And they looked at solutions in the marketplace, and they didn't find exactly what they were looking for. And they ultimately looked to build it. And then they came back to us and said, hey, a lot of what we want in our JHA or need in our JHA every day already exists on the time card. Who are your crews? There's work activities. And more importantly than that to them it was the hook of, can we hook it to this thing they're already doing? They're already turning in a time card every day. They didn't come to us for a safety tool. They came to us for a compliance item, actually, right? Nobody likes compliance. We all have to do it, right? We had to turn in a time card to get paid. Well, you have to turn it to JHA because it's a requirement. But it isn't a requirement to get paid. It is a requirement by your contractor, general contractor, your owner, the department, municipality, whoever. So now you're fighting with the field to get it turned in. The field doesn't like doing it. And this contractor said, well, could we hook it to the time card, make the experience really, really simple? And if we do that well, whenever they turn in their time card, they're turning in their JHA at the same time. And the net result was a product that they rolled out in weeks that was over a 90% adoption. Submission, no longer a problem policing. Customers or end users, I call customers, end users on other projects that didn't have it rolled out right away were asking for it.
So right? Let's talk about those skills. Let's not call them end users. We also had a little discussion about nomenclature too. And
foremen and superintendents. Yes.
Okay.
Foremen and superintendents on site, end of every day, running crews, running work. So in this case, you're talking about folks, a multi-union trade contractor, building high rises, building infrastructure. These are crew leads in the field from, age in mid-20s to age mid-50s. And they're running a crew of 5-10 people. And every morning they've got to fill out a JHA, get it signed off and turn it in. And now they're doing it as part of their time card.
Great. That's a great one. That's a great one. So do you keep tracking them to see how do you maintain your accounts, and how do you keep them on your roadmap, and how do you make sure that, I'll say, there's a penetration that happens on the site with the use of what your data is collecting? How do you keep track of that internally?
So are you asking from a perspective of how do we know their usage, or for them?
How do you know it's working? How do you know that they are, they're still in the jam and they're like, yep, this is a keeper?
So we have tracking on our back end, and admittedly, we haven't spent a lot of time getting real granular on it, which it's funny that the Amazons and Googles of the world, can go down and to tell you exactly what people are doing at this given moment. They can tell us what we're doing. We haven't spent a lot of time there for ourselves into depth, which we're going to start doing, but we haven't because we've been focusing on our customers and honestly pouring all our product and work into our customers. Our customers tracking what you just asked very granularly. We give them the dashboards to do it. So we're aware of usage. That's what I
wanted to know.
Yeah, we're aware of usage. We can dig it out of the system, but what we've really done is given the customer a way to see a dashboard. How many people had time cards today? How many people turned in JHAs today? These things should match, right? And, are there people so this is the nitty gritty that, you got to have. I had 100 people turn in time cards. I had 50 turn in JHAs. Well, that's bad. Something's not right. I had people that went to work today, just workers. I had crew that were on time cards that weren't on JHAs. All right. That's also bad, right? How do we find those things? We need to give our customer those metrics. So we give our customers that dashboard, that ability to see those, let's call it exception reporting. And they can then go in and find out, is there a reason, right? Was there training? Was there, somebody didn't have an iPad, somebody didn't know, or is it just resistance? And in almost all cases, it's just a knowledge base of like, oh, I didn't know we were doing that yet. This tool, again, because they could see, they could come back and tell us, hey, this is this of all the things we've done in 7 years, this is the second best thing we've ever rolled out. The first best thing was the time card itself. It rolled out across the company like wildfire, which to us, that's the testament that the product did what it was supposed to do. Because, and I think you and I talked about this offline before we got started, it isn't about the feature in the tool. It's about the outcome they wanted. They wanted the outcome of this JHA getting turned in, and ultimately they didn't want it to be a fight or a pain in the ass for their end user. What we won with was the end user actually has a better experience, and you've got this compliance rate that has gone up in the 90 percentile. It was a win all the way around. The outcome was achieved. The features, they're secondary. The outcome is the goal.
Did you expand on your features as a result of this engagement?
Yeah, so this JHA is a whole new tool that we now have in our arsenal we can sell. We did it as a dedicated build with this client. So it was a sponsored build, we call it. We have actually not tried to market it yet. And Stephanie, this just gets into how do we serve our customers well? We're a small outfit competing in a big world. Yep. And so we compete against some of the tech giants that people see at conferences. We compete against some of the old incumbents, and we're a pretty small, lean team. And so we knew the product would be valuable. We believed in the message they had. We've seen the value in it, but we haven't tried to market it yet, because marketing it then means we have to have more bodies on the sales side, right? Not the product side. And we just keep doubling down on the product.
Yeah, well, I also think sales is evolving. It's one of the reasons that I'm doing what I'm doing with intelligent construction opportunities. But beyond that, they say the riches are in the niches. And I think the more people that get into these certain pools, these games of construction technology, or, I call it, God forbid, content creation. But there's so many people in the water now going, hi, me over here. That I really think that when you refine, because you found that need, that screams opportunity to me. Why don't we move on to the next use case, which is about integrating a human resource information system, better known by the acronym HRIS,
Okay.
and the tools with time allocation. How, from that perspective, did Riskcast solve some things?
So this is a culmination of a couple different clients with similar need. So now you're talking about punch time. You know, for folks listening in, you may call this a million different things. And you and I, Stephanie, we're talking about words matter. So some people call this punch time. Some people call this attendance. Some people call it check in and out. That moment of an employee, not a worker, a crew member, checks in and checks out. And we've had some different pieces of technology within our time card to allow for some of this tracking, but more and more, for lots of different reasons we could spend hours talking about, more and more there's this, can we drive it through self-check-in? And how do we do that? And there's a lot of hardware solutions, and there's turnstiles, and there's lots of stuff. And we knew that wasn't our world to be that. And so we're not going to compete with the turnstiles, and we're not going to have an RFID card right away, maybe ever. But we needed the software to bring the outcome to our customer. The outcome the customer wanted was, we've got punch time. Let's not care through who. We've got punch time. Somebody's checked in and out. And I've got a time card with cost codes, and I want a job cost allocate those hours across those cost codes. Those two things should be married. If somebody clocked in and has 9 hours on site, well, I'd like to allocate 9 hours. How do I bring my foreman or superintendent the visibility to this? And so we had a question from one contractor about attendance. Hey, we have different apps. We've used different things. Can we build a kiosk? We had another client saying, hey, we're going to do self-check in and out on our HRIS tool. How do we bring that information forward? We've had other clients also ask about, what about PTO days? We have people that get time off. And so if I'm allocating 8 hours, but they actually had 4 hours of PTO, I've now allocated too many hours. How do I bring this visibility together? And for us, rather than try to solve, let's say, the punch time all the way through, we stepped back and said, all right, well, what's the outcome? Bring the data together. Where does the data come from? Well, for the time card, we had that. But where does this punch time come from? And it could come from a lot of places. So we built the agnostic input mechanism, if you would. We have a kiosk. We can accept data coming from an RFID card or turnstile. And for this specific case that rolled out first, from an HRIS system. And so now we have a customer who has about 1,200 people in the field with an HRIS system where they punch in and out on their own. And they were already doing their own benefits there. It was already their HR system. So these crew members were already using the tool. And now we bring the visibility of that tool to our time card. And it wasn't rocket science. This is process outcome, not technology smart. So
as it shouldn't. To me, technology is the way that you're getting there. But just because I used a fork to eat my dinner last night doesn't mean, it's all about the fork.
That's right. That's right. So they have been great to work with. We've just been really fortunate with our customer base in general. But they've been great to work with because they said, hey, you're probably going to want to do this on your own some other way. You're probably going to have another customer with a turnstile. You're going to have other use cases. So let's envision this as API input, right? Everybody hears the word API. Let's just envision this as API input. So let's.
All right. So hang on for a second. I want you to remember when we're, talking.
Oh, you're going to make me define API? I got to look that up. I'm not the smart guy, remember?
Well, see, it's an interface. It's an interface.
It is application programming interface. Yeah, I told you I was going to look it up so I could say it right. Application programming interface. Really what it is that hook again. It's the way to hook data coming from somewhere into data going somewhere else. And so we had data coming in from their HRIS system, and we needed a place to land it. And we landed it in a column that was punch hours. And then we landed their approved time off and their unapproved time off.
So let's talk, because you're talking API. So I brought up integrations, right?
Yep.
So let's talk integrations. This is where people understand that are going to listen to this. Okay, sort of got a somewhat of a definition of an API. It's there to exist, to integrate and hook together these guys. Is that fair?
Well, yes, and also, yes. Almost any modern system will have some sort of APIs. Some are easier to work with than others. They're not all created equal.
Nope.
Folks like Procore, Autodesk have amazing platform APIs with lots of documentation. Tenna, a younger, newer company like us, has all the APIs. They're like us. We're always upscaling our documentation to try to keep pace with clients. And then you have, some of the older systems that are actually legacy systems and may not even have them yet. And so you wind up with connector tools and other things, middleware. We chose to do all our integrations ourselves. We chose that because the customer outcome. So whether it's API or not, the idea is to connect the data for the customer, not tell the customer they've got to go get a consultant to do it.
We've got one of my good buddies on the call here asking you. This is from Andres Majes. Does your system pull data from another system, an API, in order to provide the data to the customer?
Yeah. So that use case we were just describing is a good example. That customer is actually using our APIs themselves. So they chose to do their own integrations, use our APIs. They're pulling data from an HRIS system and pushing that data into our system via those APIs. And so we created the endpoints to support the outcome they wanted. No different than other reporting some of our other customers have wanted. We've created some endpoints so they can get the reporting they want out of the system if they wanted to pull their own endpoints. We can do the API connections as well. So to that question, when we work with, say, an Autodesk or Procore, we're pulling data in via those APIs and pushing data out via those APIs.
Good there. I think that was a very good explanation. So, and when you went about this particular use case, we're calling it, were you dealing directly with the HR department? Who were the actual stakeholders that really wanted this? And I mean, obviously the field, but or maybe the field, but who drove it?
So in this particular use case, it was being driven by the CIO and a team of folks in the office. And they had a very systematic approach over the last 2 years of how they were getting to this culmination. So they were doing some work on their accounting system, then they were doing some work with a couple other systems, and they did some work with us. And the last piece was layering in this piece of functionality from their HRIS system. They already had the HRIS system in place.
Right.
In all of it, what they've done is focused on end user. And so this is a specialty trade contractor. It's 1,200 people across the country. They have focused on adoption. And the adoption for us was in the field, they went live in about 2 months. So the software can be rolled out pretty quickly. So they went live across 1,200 people in about 2 months. This phase of the allocation of time from a punch time, what they wanted to make sure is they looked to do it. And I love this. I love that a contractor is thinking about this in the office. It does tell me, Stephanie, that construction technology is changing. We didn't used to think about this in the office. We used to just do stuff. They're thinking, hey, we've rolled these things out over the last 2 years. The folks that are using Riskcast time cards have a great experience. Their words, really excited for that. And they said, hey, as we connect these two pieces, the punch time from the HRI system, we cannot have that experience degrade. So however we bring this together and bring them the experience, it's got to be awesome, because we've moved them to an experience they're really happy about. Let's not go backwards. And so they're fine-tuning, and we're helping fine-tune, how does that experience work in reality? Now that we brought the hours together, we're allocating what features did we not think about that we need to think about to keep the end user experience really, really great.
Yeah, well, so often you hear technology companies it's overused in my opinion, but whatever. And I try to stay away from it myself, is seamless.
Yeah. I use it as well, right? And so the new one, Stephanie, everybody talks about is frictionless.
Yeah.
That's the new seamless.
Yeah.
Frictionless is the new seamless.
That's right.
It's just got to work, right? That's our answer, right? Just has to work. Yeah.
I believe we got another question. Can your system produce certified payroll reporting verified against actual hours? And what does that look like?
So we do not get into certified payroll. We do all the reporting to support it. And so happy for folks to message us and our team afterwards and look at what that reporting looks like. I lived as a contract manager at one point in life and had a certified payroll administrator working for me. I know what that's all about. We don't do that piece of it. We do here's the information to support that piece of it.
Well, you have to be good at what
yeah, that's a whole bucket of things. That's a whole bucket of things.
Once you start coloring in those lines, and I work with some of them. So, you know, again, I'll give a call out to my own philosophy. And I believe that the more that digital tools like this stay in their own lane, the more useful they can become. The more you go wide and don't go deep. It's, you know, why am I doing this? Why am I using this? It does a little bit over here and a little bit over there and a little bit over there. But anyway, I won't go down my typical route.
I agree with all of what you said. Yes.
And our LinkedIn user gives you a thumbs up on that. All right. So I guess the next thing we want to talk about, well, I was going to ask you a little bit, when you're talking about onboarding approximately 1,200 people in a short amount of time, what does that look like from the internal experience for those people that are adopting your technology?
It's humbling how well all this has gone. We spend 2 or 3 months typically with an office getting prepped. So our implementations team job is usually in advance of what we would call rollout, right? Job starts, contract signed, everybody gets going, there's a kickoff call. 3 months into that, you're probably rolling out time cards to the field. Stephanie, we thought we were going to need implementation people like going to job sites and helping train and do things. We do not. And it has been, it's remarkable how well it gets used. And I say that looking at the time card, I guess it's not remarkable. It looks just like what it should look like. It's a grid. It isn't complicated to see. It's big buttons. And as soon as you tap the screen 2 or 3 times, you realize how it all works. So the foremen in the field receive very little training, almost none from us. Their own teams internally get prepped and trained so they can help them. And I think if we go back and survey all our clients, they'll tell you they don't do a lot of it either. Mm-hmm. We had a large enterprise with approximately 4,500 people in the field roll out enterprise. And again, it's humbling to listen to them tell their story. And they were telling another CIO about the experience and relating it when they were asked. And they said it was the hands down easiest thing they've ever rolled out in the field. It isn't because we're so smart. I'm going to go back to our first client said, it's got to work like this. It's got to be muscle memory. It's got to be easy to use. It's got to do all the things we ask it to do, and don't bring me crap we don't need. And in the field, we've done that really, really well. The administrator experience is good. I'll admit we've got to get better there, but that's the 1% that we work with in the office for 3 months. And so they get the over the shoulder, they get all the work together. And then when they roll out in the field, their lives are hopefully really great also.
Well, and the field cannot afford to, to second guess any tool they're using.
No.
Period end. They just cannot. Yeah. I mean, there's enough other accidents and whatever can happen with other elements, let alone making digital tools just a big pain in the ass.
Yep.
So let's, I guess we'll move to our last little case, and that was the use of a small shop that integrates the time and material tickets with the existing time card.
Yeah. So, by the way, I also want to talk about the one we're not doing before we go, because I think
sure.
it's
for sure.
We're not doing on purpose, but this T&M one is fun. The industry is not all ready at the same time for everything at once. If you were to read the headlines, you think everybody's doing all kinds of amazing things. And then you really go talk to people, and of course you know better, right? So what's really happening is any number of things at once within a construction company. They might have adopted silo tools over the years. They might have done lots of different things. For us, it was always about, here's the whole system. How do you move from one piece to another over time? Almost no one gets started with everything at once. So here's this contractor with, a few dozen people in the field, and they got started probably about a year ago now. They've been using time cards consistently for a year. It's become kind of how they do work, and they're having a good time with it. I say having a good time with it. They're using it, right? Let's hope they're having a good time with it. They're not asking us for a lot of help along the way. Everybody seems to be on board. The usage in the system looks great. And then they reach out and said, hey, we really want to look at time and material now. So time cards became the way they did business. Much like that earlier client with JHA, they were already using everything. They're like, oh, we also want this other thing. With T&M, it's already in the system. It's just already there. They just say, hey, can we have somebody show us how to do this? And we have some questions about a couple features on it. And they start layering in time and material. It's already in the system, Stephanie. It already sits in the time card. You can tag hours. It auto-populates a ticket. You can get them signed in the field. It's got everything there. So all they're doing now is taking use of something else that was in the system. It's already part of their subscription price. There's no bumping number. It's just there for them to use when they're ready.
And it has to be. It just, I don't know. I think, again, I'm really stuck on the idea that it's a tool.
Yeah.
And it's a tool for the right time at the right place. But the reason for needing it is not at all connected with a toy,
Right.
nice to have. It's a
You
need
need it when
to
you
have.
need it. And it's, we've been talking about it internally a lot. Our software platform has tools. The outcome is you're building something, right? We should support the outcome. Our tool should support the outcome, whatever your outcome is. We're the tools in the bag. You're building the house, right? You're building the building. We should be able to support it as you need it. And this T&M ticket was a great example of like, hey, we want to move from our old process. And let's face it, people that are doing T&M tickets on paper know it. They're losing money because they're losing tickets, and you're not going to get paid for stuff you can't prove. And so it's a great need, but also first and foremost, you got to make payroll. You got to run payroll. And so you can't just jump to like, oh, we got to solve this while you haven't solved the first problem. So we solved the first problem. We're helping them now with the second problem, which is exciting. Because for them, it's just going to be value rise. Like it's just more ROI.
Well, again, the whole idea of automating anything, no matter whether it's the construction industry, the insurance industry, manufacturing, what have you, is to digitize a process and supposedly cut out the manual guesswork, I guess, that we all, prior to all of this, would have done or still do in some cases, no matter whatever it is that we're doing. And there's a time and a place for it. And it isn't a right place all the time. It just isn't. It doesn't matter what technology you have. I could go on a rant, and I won't, off Microsoft Outlook alone. But nonetheless, and this is also to me, companies like Riskcast, it's your opportunity to help them help you. I hate to quote that cheesy movie, but because, and the other thing about construction professionals, they're going to tell you straight up, cutting right to the chase, this is solving something or helping something in some way, shape, or form. They just know absolutely when they see it. And they just know, because meanwhile, back at the ranch, I've got 3 floors to finish today, and the drywall's coming tomorrow, and I don't know where the hell we're going to put it, and yada, yada, yada.
Yep. And Stephanie, I'm like, we'll rant together at some point here, because this is at the beginning. You and I were talking offline about this. It is, you said it. The building's going to get built one way or the other. I don't care what technology platforms we've decided on or not decided on. The building's going to get built one way or the other. If the internet goes down, guess what? The building's going to get built. I swear to God, somehow it's going to get built, right? So all the fancy tech in the world, isn't going to stop. The building's going to get built. So now the people that are building the buildings, how do we make it the best experience for them? And as far as I'm concerned, that's all we should ever focus on. And so and I said this at the tech conference, it was refreshing coming to the tech conference from, let's call it the Operators Summit. And you're at a tech conference and I'm almost pounding the table. Like, don't sell software. I will call out everybody I find selling software. It's, what does the customer need as an outcome? And does your software help them get there? And if it does, you don't have to sell it. They'll see it. What you just said a second ago, it will be self-evident and they'll use it. Yes, we have to help them understand how it works at some level, how it connects. The questions we've even had here, do the APIs connect? Do we do certified payroll? We have to answer these questions, but at some point it's self-evident that this is going to help me with my outcome. I struggle, as you can hear me, right, with don't sell software. What does the customer need as an outcome? And if your software solves it or helps with it, thumbs up. That's my little rant.
I love it. I love it. I have a little idea for us as we go offline now. I want to thank you. Yeah. I think we stuck to our story. I hope we provided some value for those that are listening live. Alec and I will be continuing to provide value after the live stream in direct and indirect ways, not only for those that registered today for Riskcast, but others that fit this kind of tool and are looking for these kinds of solutions. So we will certainly be reaching out to you, and reach back to us by all means. You can contact Alec directly at Riskcast. You can DM him and find him easily on LinkedIn. Same here. And that's a nice little segue for intelligent construction opportunities. If you want to show off your construction technology, contact Intelligent Construction Opportunities at info@intelops.com or DM me directly on LinkedIn. We have a conversation. It doesn't mean every tech is right for this either. It just means we start to open up some sort of rapport and come to some sort of decision. And again, I want to thank you, Alec. I think it was a terrific
conversations.
And we'll look forward to the next one. So audience, stay tuned. And with that, I'm just going to check one more comment. We got LinkedIn user. Don't sell software. Love it.
I used to have to buy it. I totally agree, right?
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you soon. See you on the other side, Alex.
Yep.